Hello and welcome back to the garden. You know, every fall there's this rush to clean everything up. But here's the truth, not everything needs to be cleared. In fact, sometimes the best thing you can do is leave it alone. Today I'll show you how to make your fall cleanup easier, smarter and better for wildlife, while setting your garden up for success next spring. Let's dive in. Okay, so first up, embrace the mess. In fact, it's not mess. That pile of leaves is actually habitat for all kinds of overwintering insects and pollinators. And don't rake up every single leaf. Pile some of them under your trees and shrubs. Very, very beneficial during the winter months. Joe Pye weed, for example. We cut it down by half in May and we removed the flowers when they had finished to prevent seed spread. I'll cut it down by half again in the next few weeks, leaving plenty of places for insects to overwinter. Next, leave your ornamental and wildlife-friendly plants standing. Seed heads, tall grasses, coneflowers, they feed the birds and look beautiful in winter light. You're not vacuuming a living room here, you're designing a little ecosystem. Clean up tactically, the spots you see most, and let the rest just do its thing. Okay, so now, here's where we do get tidy. Anything diseased, out it goes. Squash bugs, tomato blight, cabbage worms, don't let them overwinter. Pull those plants, bag them up and toss them, not in the compost. If you've got more leaves than you can use, start a leaves-only compost pile. They'll break down into gorgeous, crumbly mulch by next year. And for your lawn, rake now, not in spring. If it's still mild where you are, overseed thin areas and top dress with compost. It's the best fall boost your grass can get. So before you start your garden cleanup, perhaps take a time to walk around your garden, making notes of what worked and what didn't this season and what needs changing for next season. And I know some people even use a garden notebook for that purpose. So in our case, for example, this area here, you may have seen me talking about on a previous video, has now become, over time, a shade garden due to the shade from these arborvitae that have grown up. So we're going to have to find somewhere else for these hydrangeas. Unfortunately, we had to take out the serviceberry that was here because we had an arborist tell us that it was diseased and didn't have that much longer to live. So that's given us more space to work with, and we're going to develop this into a shade garden. And that's a wonderful project to be planning over the winter months. So now let's talk about tender plants, dahlias, cannas, etc. and elephant ears. You should bring these in before the first frost, store them in a cool, dry place around 40 to 50 degrees. Also, any pots that are prone to cracking, you should bring them indoors too. I bring ours in and leave them all in the garage the whole winter. Fall is a great time to plant trees and shrubs. Just don't overdo it. No huge holes or heavy compost in the backfill. Water deeply before the ground freezes and protect trunks from rodents with hardware cloth. If your evergreens are dropping older needles, don't panic. That's completely normal this time of year. In the veggie garden, clean up carefully and think long term. Pull spent crops, but don't overtill. Keep your soil structure intact and sow cover crops if you can. You can even pot up parsley or chives for winter use indoors. And if you've still got green tomatoes, you can bring them in now to ripen. So now is a really good time to be planting garlic. So to plant garlic, you can actually plant the whole garlic bulb, but that's a little bit of a waste. You get less garlic that way. No, you plant the individual cloves, and you plant them with the pointy end sticking up, and the bottom is the root. You plant them fairly shallow, don't need to be deep. And like that. Plant them about 12 inches apart. Like that. You can cover it with mulch for a little bit of extra protection, although it's not vital. Garlic is pretty hardy. So in the flower garden, pay particular attention to your roses, irises and peonies, as they're particularly prone to fungal disease. But leave seed heads on annuals and perennials if you want them to self-sow. Poppies and larkspur will reward you next year. And if you're ordering bulbs, do it now, but plant them as they arrive and think in drifts, not singles. If you've had your houseplants outside all summer, now's the time to bring them in before the first frost. But before you do that, check for any damaged or dead leaves and remove those. Also, if they need repotting, it's a good idea to pot them up outside before you take them in, much less messy that way. Okay, so the finishing touch is edging your beds. You can use a special tool like this edger. I actually inherited this. This is not something I use. I tried it, it didn't really work. What I find to be much better is simply a straight-edged shovel. And to edge, you go in at an angle to the bed, like that, so that you're cutting into the grass that way. You go down just a couple of inches and turn the soil back, and it makes a really nice clean edge that really make the garden look finished. So fall's a fantastic time for getting to the weeds because you can see them. So for example, look at this bed, it's absolutely covered in creeping Charlie. So we can really make a dent on it because we can see it. And with weeds, the key is to not let them set flower, because if you do that, what comes next? The seeds, and the seeds will blow all over your garden, and you'll have the weeds everywhere. So, and for patches that you can't get to, or that are just too overwhelming, this is the time to cover it in cardboard, and then cover that cardboard in a layer of mulch, and leave it all winter. And when you come back in spring, that area under the cardboard will be lovely compost. So, happy weeding. So there you go, your fall cleanup checklist simplified. Clean where it counts, leave a little wildness where nature needs it, and give your garden and yourself a healthy head start on spring. And if you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up and tell me in the comments, what part of fall cleanup do you skip? And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more garden how-tos, transformations and seasonal tips. Thanks for joining me in the garden. I'll see you next time.